welcome back to another iOS development tutorial. I'm Benny Johnson, and in this episode I'm actually going to show you how to code your iBank loan viewcontroller.m file, which are your implementation file for your controllers for your views. And if we get time, we'll also do the iBank investment viewcontroller.m. It really depends on how long this tutorial turns out to be. So let's get started. So I'm going to jump into my iBank loan viewcontroller.m here, and you can see we've already got quite a bit of code here, but we can ignore most of this. We've just got view did load and view did load, unload, and that sort of thing. But we don't have to worry about that for now. Now what we want to do is, first off, we're going to create another method, and I like to package things up when I'm coding. The reason why I like to do this is it allows me, if I change the interface or if I change the way the interface works or something along the lines, or if I want to call the same code from something else, it allows me to do that by adding methods, because I can just call that method whenever I want. Whereas if I put it in some code like the submit button and execute that code, I have to copy and paste that code or rewrite it into a method. So that's why I prefer to write stuff into actual methods, so then I can access it whenever I like in that class. So what we're going to do is we're going to dash void, so it's going to return nothing, right? And I'm going to call this process, right? I'm going to declare the scope, and let's start writing some code. First off, we have to import our bank sir class, right? Because we can't use it until we actually import it. So it's really easy to do this. All you do is pound import and the header file, which is iBank sir. Alright? Quite simple. Next, we have to create that object, because that currently is just a class. We have to actually create an object from that class to actually use the class. So it's fairly easy to do this. All we do is just like variables, bank sir, if I spell it right, iBank sir, right, which is our type. Then asterisk, because it's a pointer. Remember, we're not moving the house around it with us because it's heavy. This is just an address to a bank sir object. Then we're going to say equals, right? We're going to put 2 square brackets. We're going to put the data type, which is iBank sir. Yep. And then we're going to put alloc. Now, you may be asking, well, we didn't write a method called alloc in our iBank sir. I can even prove this. We didn't write a method at all. But however, we got this method from the NS object, and this is a class method. I'm not gonna go into class methods, but basically just remember that we did get this from NS object. Even though it's not in our header class, we inherited that method from NS object, and that's why every object must inherit from NS object at one point, right? So let's go back to our .m. So it's going to allocate the memory. That's what it's going to do. It's going to scan all the variables and that sort of thing and allocate the memory for us, right? Then we want to int, and this just basically prepares the memory for us. And if you can remember that we didn't write an int method, but NS object wrote an int method, and that would initialize everything. So yeah, so we do need to prepare that method. Whenever you're making an object, you have to allocate it and then you have to init it. But in the case here, you can see that we have not allocated an initted NS string, but we could have, right? But we're calling a method that actually does the allocating and initializing with us, but that method takes a parameter, so it already sets things up for us. So that's a factory method. Just keep that in mind. But this is the methods that we're calling that came from the NS object, right? Because we haven't written any factory methods to take any parameters, because we don't need those. Alright, next, once we've got our object, I'm going to declare some variables here, and the first variable I'm going to declare is the chard variable, because we're going to use that. Chard gets forgotten some of the time, so I'm going to call this percentage, right? And I'm going to set it equal to percent single quote, right? And this is a scalar type, it is not an object, so we do not need that pointer. All we need to do allocate and init. Alright, so that's our first variable. The second variable is going to be int, and this is going to be loan amount, and this is going to be equal to the amount dot text which is our text field, right? And we're accessing the text property. Then we're going to get the int value from that, right? So this is going to set whatever's in this text box here, right? Whatever amounts in that, it's going to set the int, convert it to an int, and set that to loan amount. Next, we're going to declare another variable, which is interest rate, and this is going to be equal to our, I called it band, that's not a very good name. What about bank? That sounds more appropriate. So bank interest rate for loan, yep, that's what we want. And we want to pass the amount dot text in, which is from our text field that we have, where the user is going to enter the amount they want to get a loan for. And we're going to create another one, another integer called months, and we're going to set months to bank period months, and this passes in an ns string, which is amount.text. So we're calling these methods, right? We're calling these methods, we're having parameters in there. So if you can remember, interest rate for loan return takes that text and it returns the interest rate for that amount, and that's what we're doing here. We're setting that value equal to whatever's returned here, right? And here we're doing exactly the same thing. If you can remember, I just did something. If you can remember, .m, we're returning an integer, right, depending on the amount passed in, and we're passing that value in, which is the amount.text here. And last one, T interest, that stands for total interest, equals loan amount times interest rate, right, divided by 100 because we want that percentage, times months divided by 12. Alright, so we've got all our data. We're recording those data from those methods that we're calling on iBank, on our bank object, right? We're recording the data, so we're recording the loan amount, which is the integer. We're recording the interest rate, which comes from the bank method here that we're passing in the amount text. We're recording the months in which the person has to pay that loan by calling the period months and passing in the amount.text. And finally, we're recording the total interest, which is the amount, which is the interest that they're gonna get, right? And we're doing that calculation. So we're doing a simple interest calculation. We're getting that loan amount that we declared up here, we're timesing it by interest rate, okay, and then we're dividing it by 100 to get that percentage, and then we're timesing it by the months that we got from that period months, right, that we passed in amount.text, and then we're dividing it by 12, because remember, simple interest works in years, not months, so we have to divide it by 12. Alright, and our last few things that we have to write, which is going to set labels. I'll just write a comment there, and I did that wrong. Remember, before 2 double slashes. So set labels, and we're gonna say interest label, right? Dot text. Oh, I forgot this. Self dot interest label dot text equals ns string. Remember, we're calling a factory method here. String with format, because we don't have that actual thing there. Then we're going %i %c, and we're going to pass in an integer and a chart. That's why we created that percentage chart up there. And those variables are going to be interest rate and also the percentage chart that we had. And hopefully that's it. I'm pretty sure that's it. And then we're going to do the same for our period label, which will display the amount of months for that loan. So period label dot text equals ns string with format at double quotes %i, we're passing in an integer, and then we're going to type months, which is just some normal text, and we're going to pass in the variable months into that integer placeholder. And the square brackets off, end it with semicolon, and finally we have the self dot label payment label, I'm pretty sure, loan, what did I call it? Total payment label, that's what I called it. Dot text equals a new ns string, right? We're going to call that factory method, string with format. We're going to go at double quotes. We're going to do $% %i, and we're going to place an integer in there, which is the loan amount plus the total interest, right? And we're going to end that bracket off. I'm going to end that other square bracket off, and we're going to end it with a semicolon. So that's about it for our process void thing. Now we have to call that, and we're going to call that via the submit button on our view. So we can do that because we've already got a method for that. Here we're going to delete this stuff we did for testing, and all we do is called self, because like we refer to ourselves as I or he or dad or mom, we do the same in programming. We don't say, oh, Ben Johnson, call this. We say, I call this, I do this, I do that. We're doing the same in programming, except we're using the self keyword here. So we're using self, and then we're going to call the process method of self, right? And that's it. That's all we need to do. Now let's go ahead and run and see it in action. And hopefully it all works for demonstration purposes. So we've got an iPhone here. It's launching up. Alright, so we're prompted to enter our loan amount. We're going to pop up that keyboard, and we're going to type in number, submit, and well, we have a problem here. How do we get rid of that keyboard? Why isn't the keyboard going away? Well, that's something we're going to deal with in the later tutorial, but in the next tutorial I'm going to show you how to do exactly the same thing, but for our investment view controller. So I'll see you then.